We all breathed a collective sigh of relief when it was announced that Tom Holland's Spider-Man wouldn't be leaving the MCU after all, during the whole Sony Marvel ownership mess. We figured the reason that Spidey was allowed to stick around was decided in the boardroom, but it turns out there might have been a much less professional reason. According to Tom Holland and Bob Iger, president and CEO of Disney, we have him to thank for the fact that this beloved take on Peter Parker will continue to endure. Or maybe not him so much as his drinking. But first, here's a little bit of background just in case you aren't totally caught up on all of the drama. Last August, Sony and Marvel announced to the world that they were not able to come to a reasonable financial agreement that would allow Tom Holland's Spider-Man to appear in the MCU. Fans of Holland and what he has brought to the MCU were outraged and saddened, as was Holland himself. His Spider-Man was such a good fit for the MCU and had since become a staple part of the Avengers landscape. And it wasn't just hard on fans, it was pretty hard on the Spider-Man actor as well. Recently, Holland told the story from back during that tumultuous time when he and the rest of the Marvel gang were at the big annual D23 Disney Expo conference. Because Spider-Man's fate in the MCU wasn't looking good, Holland wasn't allowed to join in with any of the festivities and was barred from even taking photos with all of his castmates and friends. He was understandably pretty devastated by the whole thing, and so he asked someone there for Bob Iger's email address, simply so he could thank him for the last 5 years that changed his life. He sent off the email and amazingly, Iger responded right away. The Disney president told Holland that he would love to take a phone meeting with him at some point soon, asking when the actor was free to talk. Understandably, Holland replied, whenever, because that's what you do when your boss and the CEO of the biggest media corporation of all time asks when you want to chat. So a few days went by and Holland hadn't heard anything. That night, he and his family went to their local pub for its weekly quiz night, which is a big game of trivia in a bar for all of our American friends out there, where Holland had a few beers on an empty stomach. We've all seen Tom Holland, right? He's not the biggest guy in the world, and it doesn't take much for him to become pretty inebriated. So of course his phone rings, and of course it's Bob Iger, and of course Tom is wasted. But you just don't reject a call from Bob Iger, so he answers with some encouragement from his dad. The two chat for a minute, and next thing you know, there's a new Spider-Man movie. Well, that's not exactly how it happened. Holland, being a bit tipsy, got really emotional because the biggest opportunity of his life that he had wanted since he was a child was being taken away from him, and for no good reason. According to Bob Iger, Holland actually wept on the phone when explaining just how important the role was to him and how grateful he was to get to play it. While Holland wouldn't go that far, he definitely admits that he was sad and emotional and that he didn't feel like it was right to take Spider-Man out of this world that they had worked so hard to integrate him into. Luckily for all of us, whatever Holland did say worked. And next thing he knew, he was in talks between Marvel and Sony, helping them figure out how best to proceed with the character. Finally, we can look forward to our next Spider-Man movie in July of 2021, with Holland still firmly planted in the MCU. We never thought we'd say this, but thank God Tom Holland got wasted and cried on the phone to the boss of Disney. What do you think about all of this? What would the future of Spider-Man have looked like if he had been kicked out of the MCU? What do you hope his next solo movie is all about? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to keep up with all of our latest videos.